Endeavoring to be faithful versus willful. This is another mark of the faith-driven entrepreneur. Willfulness happens when you try to bend God's plan to meet your expectations and do things under your own strength. Faithfulness happens when you surrender your selfish ambitions and desires for something better. The opportunity to participate in the work that God is doing in the marketplace and in His world. I'm a big sports fan, and sometimes using an analogy I'm familiar with helps me to make sense of something that can be more conceptual. I think of the games I remember most. These are often defined by an epic comeback. It's even become a statistic. American football tracks the number of game-winning drives orchestrated by quarterbacks. Baseball boasts about walk-off hits that dramatically result in wins. If you're a sports fan, you know this feeling well. Your team is sitting on the wrong side of a seemingly insurmountable score. You've lost all hope. Just then, an incredible play is made and an unforgettable moment happens. You can't believe it. Victory snatched from the jaws of defeat. Business is no different. We face moments of adversity all the time. We lose a big customer or miss out on a big deal. Sometimes these moments happen far outside of our control. COVID-19 was one of those events, but it's not the first time. We look back not too long ago in 2008 during the Great Recession. Business seemed to dry up in an instant. One minute the faucet was on, the next it was just stopped. In 1928, brothers Walt and Roy Disney introduced the world to Mickey Mouse via their short animated feature, Steamboat Willie. A year later, in 1929, the duo incorporated Walt Disney Productions. Of course, the timing couldn't have been worse. They did so just as the stock market crashed, plunging the country into a 4-year-long Great Depression. Still, the Disney brothers knew that America needed something to smile about more than ever. They navigated the challenges of the Depression, and they grew their business to the point where work could begin on their first full-length animated feature. This all happened just as the country's financial outlook started to brighten. We all face hinge moments and uncertain challenges. This month, we're taking a deeper look at what it means for an entrepreneur to be obedient to God and His call on our work as we encounter these moments on our journey. And how do we walk that fine line between being faithful rather than willful in these times? King David faced significant adversity throughout his life, and we have the Psalms as a result of his many trials and tribulations. From his words, we can learn much about the importance of trusting in the Lord always, especially when times are tough. In Psalm 31, David writes, "My times are in your hands. Let your face shine on your servant. Save me in your unfailing love. Let me not be put to shame, Lord, for I have cried out to you." It can be hard to tell the difference between being faithful and being willful, especially when you think you're doing the right thing. But here's the litmus test. If we find ourselves thinking, I want to do God's will, but I just want to do it my way, we might be in trouble. When you're trying to do things under your own power, you're being willful. It can be disguised by words that seem virtuous, like grit, determination, and perseverance, but these traits can have us traveling apart from God, seeking our power, not His. This leaves us depleted, tired, and lonely, because it's all done apart from Him and the energy and love that comes from co-creating with God, under His power, for His glory. Canlis restaurant faced this choice at the outset of the COVID-19 pandemic. They could have been just willful in pursuing business as normal or just even shutting things down. Instead, they went with faithful, knowing that the reason for their business was more about helping people and less about chasing profits. The iconic Seattle fine dining eatery pivoted to establish several outside-of-the-box business models that allow the restaurant to continue to show hospitality to guests and the community and to keep its employees on the payroll. All of its experiments center on its true identity and purpose, bringing people together, whether over food or otherwise. Let's watch together.
Okay, what are we talking about?
We're back.
We're back. Remember when we were at a restaurant? Yeah. "30 weeks ago today, everything in my company changed. Literally, the need for fine dining disappeared overnight."
Breaking news tonight, the CDC confirms the first case of novel or new coronavirus in the U.S., and it's right here in our state.
My wife and I were in New York, and we were reading headlines about what was happening in Seattle.
New information about the explosive coronavirus outbreak.
We don't know how many cases are really out there.
And it was like, whoa, this isn't going to work. Like, how in the world could we possibly stay open as a restaurant? In any crisis, at some point early on, you have to say to yourself, what are we here for? The legacy and the heritage of Canlis Restaurant starts with the difference between a customer and a guest. They are guests in our restaurant as if they were guests in our own home, because when we study hospitality and go back to the very beginning, that's what it is. That sort of loving care of people, carving out space for the guest, the stranger, deeply based in the charge to love your neighbor. I don't need a fine dining restaurant to do that. On March 16th, Canlis closed and decided to do something different, which was the most exciting and terrifying thing I think we've ever done. Yeah. It's so easy to pay attention all the time to what we don't have. And I think the question that was thrown right in our faces when COVID hit was, what do we have to be thankful for? Meaning, wait a second. It's true that this is hard. It's true that this is scary. It's true this is unknown, uncertain, and devastating things have and are about to continue to happen. That's all true. And also, isn't it also true, the game's not up. We're not out of it. It's just that all the rules changed.
I am so glad you are here.
And suddenly, if we could understand the rules, then maybe we could keep playing the game. And once we started doing that, we said to ourselves, oh, we can play this game. This is the same game we've been playing for 69 years, just a more extreme version of it. So let's do that thing where we muster the forces, put everyone in the same room, and say, what do we have at our disposal?
This is the most traffic folks have seen around here in a while. That's what happens when Canlis gets into the drive-through business.
And before you knew it, we opened a burger stand, and then a bagel shed, and then delivery service.
Hey, are you Jeff? They've had so many interesting ideas, and now Canlis has converted into a drive-in theater.
Then we did CSA, supporting all the farmers we could. Then we did bottle service for alcohol, weekend kits. We did a piano live stream. We created a bingo show. It's Friday night at I-17. We have a winner! Like we have any business doing a bingo show. And then the weather got nice, so we built a restaurant in our parking lot called the Crab Shack, because who wouldn't want to eat crab in a parking lot? And then it started raining. So we did Canlis Community College.
Good evening, Canlis Community College students. I'm Brian Canlis. All right, welcome back to Canlis Community College.
My name is Brady Williams. I'm the executive chef here at Canlis.
Welcome to Canlis Wine Drinking 101. My name's Nelson.
My name's Amanda Lynn. I'm one of the dining room managers here at Canlis, and no, I don't normally dress like this.
Community college was a way for us to say, wow, we still have so much. The best wine team in the country, a remarkably talented chef. Why not teach a little bit? In fact, wait a second. We know everyone in this town. What if we invited them to come along? Like, if you've been given a lot, do a lot with it. And I think we had that opportunity. A lot of people might look at this and say, but wait a minute, you're not making money. Yes, but did we define that as the mission of the company? Maybe a pandemic's not the time to be making money, but maybe that means I should still be serving people.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
We're so thrilled.
Have a great one. Enjoy.
We had the opportunity to encourage thousands of people. We had the opportunity to raise money for charity in a pandemic. We had the opportunity to employ all of our staff. Maybe breaking even is enough. Ultimately, we want to get to the place where if it's not a little bit scary, then we didn't go quite far enough. I can confidently tell you, if your joy, if your sense of purpose comes from your circumstance, well, that's dangerous. If it comes from something deeper, well, then maybe we can weather even the really big storms.
How do we know when we're being willful rather than faithful? It can be hard to tell sometimes. Another way to look at the difference between contending, what God has directed you to do, and striving, what I want to do. Contending means I bring all that I am in obedience to God, but surrender my desire for control. We release the outcome to Him. Contending is a position of dependency and entrusting the results, timing, funding, everything to God. The story of Canlis illustrates how dramatic circumstances forced them to change their business model, but following God's purpose for them never wavered. In other words, the why remained the same while the methods changed. This might be my favorite story we've ever done on Faithful versus Willful across all the times we talked about this mark. In the Bible, we see where we can be willful in both activity, when Saul doesn't wait on Samuel, and in passivity, when David stays behind when kings go off to war. We see the same opportunities for the Canlis brothers here. They could have been willful in going about business as usual and forcing their traditional model, or they could have been willful in passivity, refusing to open when their model was compromised. They did neither. Instead, they responded out of faith, using all that they had at their disposal to meet their mission and to do it creatively as they sought to delight their customer and give their employees meaningful work. It can be dangerous if our joy and purpose comes from our circumstances. When that happens, then we can't help but be impacted greatly by outside forces. Highs and lows become a barometer of our success, and what is happening around us can too easily influence our decisions. It's important for us to remember that God doesn't need us to make money. He simply wants us to experience the joy that comes from pursuing a call to create that He places on our hearts. But as Henry Ford wrote, when everything seems to be going against you, remember that the airplane takes off against the wind, not with it. An airplane is built to fly, and Canlis was reminded that they exist to serve people. As we saw, their desire to serve doesn't need to be in the form of a high-end restaurant. It could be a bingo night or a crab shack. Just because the rules have changed, it didn't mean that they were out of it. On the other hand, striving is characterized by an internal pressure that I have to make this happen in my energy, in the time frame I want, and by the means I think that are best. I mentioned before that grit and perseverance can be seen as altruistic characteristics of an entrepreneur. But these traits, in the extreme, can also be a sign of willfulness. How do we know the difference? Ask someone who has line of sight to see your true motives. Invite others into the process. Your faith-driven entrepreneur group can be the people you need to help you see your blind spots. Lean into this community. Oftentimes, what you put in these relationships is, of course, what you'll get out of them. The more honest and transparent you are with others, the more loving and edifying they will be with you. They will become your cherished allies. What we need to recognize about willful versus faithful is that we are constantly adjusting and recalibrating our hearts to pursue the glory of God rather than our own. It takes patience, grace, and time, and most of all, it takes a humble and contrite spirit. Now, spend some time in your group talking about this session and how it relates to the journey you're on. Open yourselves up to learning from one another. Remember, of course, that to the degree you're open and honest with each other, it's going to be the degree that you get something out of this. Thank you for being a part of this group. Thank you for being a part of this ministry. Thank you for being a part of this movement. We'll see you next time.